Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show, coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and you might notice, not in the new studio today. So our new studio is in this complex, this big complex down in Hollywood, and the whole complex had a huge power outage this morning. So that caused a lot of problems. So I had to get in my car and run back here so we could do today's show from here today. But that's fine, as long as it's still you and me, a bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler talking about our favorite things in the world, movie and movie news and all that kind of stuff. Good to have you guys here with me today. We got a hell of a lot of stuff to get through today. So let's get things started with this. As you guys know, there's this little franchise out there called The Purge that's done really well at the box office, considering they basically make these movies for bus fare. And they always come in over $100 million. It's kind of nuts. There's also a new TV series of The Purge, which I have not seen it yet, but I've heard some pretty good things about it. Anyway, it looks like the next Purge movie, and yes, they are planning another Purge movie. It looks like the creator of the series is saying that the next Purge movie is probably going to be the final Purge movie that they do. Here's what the creator of the series, James DeMonaco, had to say about it. He says, "I think I'm going to write it. I think it's a great way to end it all. We want to end it all. I think in this one, and I'm very excited. When I came up with the idea and pitched it to everybody, they seemed psyched. And I think it will be a really cool ending, how we take this one home." Now, of course, one of the big questions that a comment like this raises is not only, okay, will this indeed be the end of the film franchise, but what does this mean, if anything, for this TV franchise they have going? Because they just started this series, and from all accounts, people seem to like it. Now, look, I haven't even seen the series yet, so I have no idea if the series is supposed to be tied in with the movies or not. Is it all the same universe? I'm just assuming that it is. But if he actually does wrap it up with the next one, does that mean they don't have any future plans for the series? Maybe you guys who watch the television series can give me your thoughts and insights. Jump down to the comment section and let me know. Now look, I'm going to let you know right up front here. I am not a big fan of the Purge films. I thought the first one was okay. I thought the second one, Purge Anarchy, was great. That was the second one, right? Purge Anarchy? Anyway, that one was great. Then the third one came out, and because the second one was so good, I was excited for the third one. I was excited for the third one because that second one was so good. And I thought the third one was terrible. So much so that when the first Purge came out earlier this year, I didn't even bother going down to see it. But the things have continued to make money, like even the first Purge. The first Purge, which I didn't even bother with, but the thing was made for $13 million and made $136 million at the box office. So you can't really complain too much about that, right? So I'm not sure why they want to wrap it up. It seems to be running pretty well, but if they do, interesting. And if they do, does that also mean the end of the TV series? Who knows? Lots of questions to answer. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. All right. Also here off the top, let's talk about this. There was a report that came out this morning. Despite the fact that Pirates of the Caribbean continues to make ridiculous amounts of money, there's a new report coming out today claiming that they are actually looking at rebooting the Pirates of the Caribbean films with Deadpool writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick. Now, you might remember I actually had Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick in my studio a while ago talking about Deadpool 2. These two guys are great, and they're working on a lot of stuff with Ryan Reynolds. They're writing a new movie being directed by Michael Bay for Netflix that Ryan Reynolds is going to star in. And then I believe they're working on the Pikachu movie with Ryan Reynolds. And I believe they're going to be doing a Clue movie with Ryan Reynolds. If I'm not, they're very, very busy guys right now. So right now, it looks like they're looking at doing a reboot of Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, the report came from Deadline. And at this point right now, I'm not really sure what their plans are. And Deadline is also not really clear what their plans are. Because they're saying reboot, and then they're also saying in the report it's not clear if they're even thinking about Johnny Depp coming back. Well, the thing is, if you have Johnny Depp coming back, it's not a reboot, right? If Johnny Depp is coming back, then it's Pirates of the Caribbean 6 or 7 or 8 or whichever one they're on now. Now, this brings up a couple of questions. Number one, is it time to reboot Pirates of the Caribbean? I mean, because look, this last one, I honestly thought this last one that they just did was probably the best Pirates of the Caribbean movie since the first one. The first one is the only truly great movie out of the entire franchise. The entire franchise has been a big disappointment other than the original one. The original one was great. Everything else afterwards has been a disappointment, some worse than others, but I thought this last one wasn't all that bad. But here's the key thing. Not only was it not all that bad, it basically made $800 million at the box office. You know, 2 of the Pirates films have made over $1 billion. I think none of them have made less than like 680, and that was the first film. The first film made like 680. Everyone after that has been well over 700, 800, and the 900 into the $1 billion range. So even though I'm not a big fan of this franchise, the fact of the matter is, last film wasn't all that bad. And it still basically made $800 million, like something like $794 million. So basically $800 million bucks. And you just do it. Why reboot it? Why not just do another one? And this brings up another question. Why would you look at doing another Pirates of the Caribbean without Johnny Depp? Now, I understand there are issues surrounding Johnny Depp right now. And I always say all actors are replaceable. I really do, and I really mean that. But some are less replaceable than others. Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow, I don't believe any actor is irreplaceable. But I would go so far as to say if there was an actor who is irreplaceable in a role, and there's not, but if there was, it would be Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow. Look, I'll tell you this. I believe you would have an easier time recasting Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man than you would trying to recast or just replace Johnny Depp as Captain Jack Sparrow, or heaven forbid, just taking that entire character out of the franchise, which is what they're probably looking at doing. Is there a Pirates of the Caribbean franchise without a Captain Jack Sparrow? I don't know. It doesn't seem like a smart idea to me, on face value. It just doesn't seem like a very bright idea. But that might be the way they're looking at taking things. So I'm curious to know what you guys think. Number one, what do you think about the notion of rebooting it at all? I mean, look, a pirate adventure swashbuckling film series, yeah, that could do pretty well, but calling it Pirates of the Caribbean when you just had the last one out? Next, can you see a Pirates of the Caribbean movie working without a Captain Jack Sparrow? Forget even Johnny Depp, just the character Captain Jack Sparrow. Can you see that working? I have a hard time picturing it. I'll tell you that. I'll have a hard time picturing, but we're only getting a small view of this. Maybe there's a grander plan. We'll have to wait and see how all that turns out. Okay, with that out of the way, let's go on to our main topics today. Now, how do we select our main topics? It's simple. You guys select them by emailing me your topics and questions. How do you send in your topic or question? Simple. Just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. That's john@thejohncampeashow.com. Make sure you put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right, let's go on now to the first email of the day. And our first email today comes to us from Ronald Jeffries, who writes, "Greetings, John." Well, greetings, Ronald. Let's talk about The Rock for a minute. The dude has about 90 movies shooting right now, and I just read that they're going to shoot Jumanji 2 in January. Is this even realistic? Is Dwayne Johnson just shooting too much right now? There has to be a breaking point, right? All right, thanks a lot for the question, Ronald. Now, look, we've all known that there was going to be a new Jumanji movie. We all knew that. When the last one made over $900 million, got close to making $1 billion. That movie came close to joining the $1 billion club, blew everybody's expectations completely out of the water, right? Huge success. We knew another one was coming, and they're not wasting any time. They're getting things going. The reports have come out that they're going to start shooting this thing in January. As a matter of fact, Kevin Hart himself even kind of confirmed it. Kevin Hart was being interviewed about one of his movies out right now, and he said this about Jumanji. He said, "We start shooting at the end of January. We almost made $1 billion with the first one. So to have the opportunity to repeat that same level of success is beyond exciting. To get that whole crew back is exciting. I am pumped about it." Well, First of all, of course, Kevin Hart is going to be, Kevin Smith will be pumped about it too. The whole reason Kevin Hart's really pumped about this, obviously, number one, I'm sure they had a lot of fun. If you guys have seen any of the behind-the-scenes bloopers of that first Jumanji movie, it looks like these guys all had an amazing time shooting it. But of course, this is the biggest success in Kevin Hart's career. Of course he's excited about getting back and doing it. As a matter of fact, let's put this in perspective. If you look at the biggest movies, the biggest successes in Kevin Hart's career where he was actually a significant lead character in a live-action film, where he wasn't just some cameo or something, you're looking at this. You're looking at like the fourth biggest one he's ever done was Ride Along at $124 million. That's not bad. Ride Along 2 was $124 million. That movie was terrible, but that's not a bad result. Then there was the original Ride Along that actually was a pretty good movie that he did with Ice Cube. That made $154 million. Then you get into movies he's done with The Rock. The one with Central Intelligence, that made $216 million. I am unapologetic. I really like that movie. I think Central Intelligence is really good. But then you're looking at, look at the next one up. So you go from 124, 154, 216, boom, $962 million. Gosh, I wonder which one of these films that Kevin Hart is going to want to run out and do another one for. I'm going to guess it's the one with the big glowing red letters. I'm going to guess that's the one. So, of course, Kevin Hart is all excited about getting back to doing another Jumanji movie. It's a no-brainer. Of course, the studio is, and of course, even Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is. Now, let's talk about Dwayne Johnson for a second. You bring up in the email the whole notion about, look, how busy is this guy? Can he shoot all this kind of stuff? And here's what I've always had to say. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is a smart man, all right? He understands a couple of things. Number one, he understands the sheer physicality of his being is a big part of his charm and charisma and his whole motif. Right? The Rock being huge and this apex A man, right? This apex predator of a man, him being that and being the big action, that is a part of not just his physical allure, but it's also part of his charm and his charisma and who he physically is. And Dwayne Johnson knows he's only got so many years he can be that. So right now, he's hot. He's got all the tools right now. So he is making as many films and projects as humanly possible. And I think that's smart. So I don't mind that. But yeah, man, when you talk about how busy is this dude's schedule, I don't think there's anybody else in Hollywood who comes close to being as busy as this guy. Because seriously, let's take a look at this. These are his confirmed upcoming things, right? These aren't just the rumored ones. These are the confirmed ones. He's got Fighting With My Family that he basically plays his wrestling persona in that one. He's got Jungle Cruise that he just finished shooting with Emily Blunt. He's got the Hobbs and Shaw movie, the, of course, Fast and Furious spinoff that he just started shooting. Then he's got Jumanji 2. He's got this action film of his that's a pet project of his, Red Notice, that I believe they pushed off the shooting so they could get to Jumanji 2 because everyone wants to do that one as fast as possible. Talking about Black Adam that they announced back in 1943, and they still haven't made it, but still, that's still technically officially on his docket. We got this film he's got called The King coming. They've already confirmed they're going to do San Andreas 2. He's already confirmed that he's doing Doc Savage. He's already confirmed he's doing a remake or a sequel, if you will, of or a revisit of Big Trouble in Little China. And then on top of all of that, he's got his television show, his Ballers Commitment, that he's already scheduled to shoot another season for. Is there anybody as busy in this business right now as Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson? Look, all I know is this. Is it too much? Is it all? Look, schedule-wise, clearly this guy and his management team have figured out a way to make this work and that it can all fit into a schedule and there's no problems. As long as everything gets done, more power to him. But at some point, like this type of frenetic pace isn't good for anybody. He's got to slow down at some point. All I know is I love the first Jumanji that they did, and I'm really excited to see the second. So if all this means we're going to get a Jumanji 2 sooner, then I'm all for it. All right, let's move on to the second email today. And the second email today comes to us from Jonathan Speedman, who writes, I can't wait for Aquaman. You and me both, brother. I know the DC movies has haters, but I don't care. I think this movie is going to be awesome. Like you always say, we shouldn't get too far ahead of ourselves, but I can't help but think about the sequel. Where do you think Aquaman 2 could go after the first one comes out in December? All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. And you're right. We should not be getting ahead of ourselves. It is a little premature to be talking about the future of the Aquaman franchise. But you know who apparently doesn't seem to think it's premature to start thinking about the future of the Aquaman franchise? Aquaman director James Wan. He has already apparently been giving lots of thought to an Aquaman sequel. And this is what James Wan recently said about this. I find interesting. So James Wan said this. He said, there's definitely stories, even within the world we've created, that you can actually see other storylines spinning off from as well. There's the Aquaman story, but then there's the stories of the 7 different kingdoms as well. I think those would be very fun to explore. Okay, so what is he referring to when he says the 7 kingdoms? So in Aquaman lore, when Atlantis sunk, it's split. Atlantis actually split into 7 different kingdoms. So they've already confirmed that, remember all the way back in the, long before Justice League came out, they had released those first posters, and we had our first poster of Aquaman that said, Unite the 7. Some people speculated, was that talking about the 7 members of the Justice League? They've confirmed they're talking about the 7 kingdoms. The 7 underwater kingdoms, I guess. So James Wan is sitting here telling us that he's already been thinking, apparently, about a sequel. He's already been thinking about where they can go with this and what they can possibly do. And his thought right now is maybe even centering the attention away from Aquaman to stories, in a Game of Thrones kind of way, I guess, of the 7 kingdoms. Look, let's be clear here. James Wan didn't say a lot. So any of our speculation on what the meaning of his statement is really just that, speculation. He hasn't given us anything to really base any firm or hard opinions on. I do find it interesting, though, that he is starting to look not just at Aquaman as the character, he's looking at this entire world and mythology of Atlantis that he's created. Well, that's come from the comics and he's expanding upon for his movie project. So I find it really interesting that he's doing that. Could an Aquaman sequel kind of maybe make Aquaman a secondary issue and look more towards stories about the 7 kingdoms? It's possible. But before we even get to that, we got to talk about, could Aquaman even be successful enough that it justifies a sequel? And that's a big question. That's a big question right now. Because now look, I think Aquaman looks great. They've got a wonderful director on board, and that's the key thing. Look what happened with Wonder Woman. You get a great world-class director on board like Patty Jenkins. Look what happens. Big success. People love it. Grand. You get Aquaman, world-class director in James Wan. This dude knows how to make these types of movies, man. You connect him, that is the most important piece to the puzzle. As much as I love Jason Momoa in the role of Aquaman, the most important piece of this puzzle is not Jason Momoa. It's James Wan. And Jason Momoa will be the first one to tell you that. So you got this incredible director on board with this great vision, with an excellent track record, with this incredible mythology and this amazing character. And the trailers to me have been outstanding. I've got a lot of hope for this film quality-wise. Quality-wise, I have a lot of hope for this film. But how is it going to do financially? And ultimately, if we're going to be talking about, sequels, that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to the box office. Do people want to get out, go to the theaters, and go watch this movie? That's going to be the question. And it's got a couple of hurdles it has to jump over. Hurdle number 1, it's got to recover from Justice League. Look, I like Justice League. I saw the damn film 7 times in theaters. But the reality is a lot of people didn't, and that's fair. A lot of people didn't like the movie. And the reality is, this is a fact, not opinion. The fact is, fewer people went to go see Justice League than any other movie in the DC cinematic universe. That's a fact. That's not an opinion. That's not a subjective thing. That is a fact. Fewer people went to go see that movie than any other ones. It was a referendum by the audience on where they thought the DCEU was, and it's not good. This is our first film now, our first DC film following Justice League. Will the audiences come back out? Now, I'm going to tell you right now, I've said this before, I will say it again. Aquaman does not need to make $700 million, all right? Aquaman does not need to be $1 billion film. It doesn't need to make $700 million. It doesn't even need to make $600 million. I'm telling you what, if Aquaman can pull out a $500 million result, they got to be happy. They got to be happy and thrilled. They've got to look at this more in terms of like a Venom kind of success bar than anything else. And if they can pull in that $450 to $500 million range, I think you consider that a success. Can they? When Justice League only makes $650 million, can Aquaman do better? Or can Aquaman get up to that standard? Then the second hurdle they've got to cross is the fact that they are opening in this killer's row of other movies. You got Bumblebee is opening, for heaven's sakes. You've got Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is opening just 1 week before. You got Mary Poppins opening the same week. And you got about 5 or 6 other films opening there as well. It's going to be a tough go. If Aquaman can get to $500 million, I think it's a no-brainer. I think they do a sequel. Can it get to $500 million, regardless of quality? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. That's going to become the big question that needs to be asked. All right, let's move on to the next email. And the next email today comes to us from Bridget Caulfield, who writes, "One of the things I love most about the Marvel movies is the relationship between Tony and Pepper. It's really the only romance in comic book movies I've connected with. But in the last few years, they've really pushed Pepper to the side with only small appearances. So I saw this new picture of Pepper in her own iron armor for Avengers 4, and it looks amazing. Does this mean Pepper survived the snap, or is this post-snap?" All right, fair question, Bridget, and thanks for the question. And you know what? Here's the thing. I think in recent memory, I do not like romantic love interests in comic book movies. I generally do not like them. As much as I love Kenneth Branagh's first Thor movie, the relationship with Jane was pointless and quite frankly a distraction. And that happens to me in a lot of these comic book movies where they have the love interest. There's only 2 in the last number of years that have really stood out to me that I've really enjoyed. One was Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone as Peter and Gwen. I thought that relationship rocked. I thought that relationship was great. And it actually added to the movie. And I enjoyed the scenes when it was the 2 of them together, as opposed to just tolerate them as I do with most other comic book movies and their romances. I loved them. I thought they were great. Even in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, as disappointing as that movie was, when the movie was just focusing on Peter and Gwen, I was eating it up. I loved it. And the movie worked when it was just the 2 of them. Let's not talk about Elektra. The other one is obviously Tony and Pepper. Tony and Pepper are great. And you know what? I remember I was at the world premiere for Avengers Infinity War. And Robert Downey Jr. came out on stage. And I believe it was like the first thing he said. Because they had the whole cast. They had Kevin Feige, they had the Russo brothers. They're all out there on stage. And they gave the mic to Robert Downey Jr. to say a few words. And his first thing was to give a shout out and a call out to who he called the true first lady of the MCU, Gwyneth Paltrow. Because not a lot of people know that actually Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert Downey Jr. have a long-term friendship that went back years before the MCU. And they've stayed like in their top 2 or 3 best friends and all that kind of stuff. And he called Gwyneth Paltrow the true first lady of the MCU, which I thought was pretty classy of him. And of course, to a lot of people's surprise, a lot of people thought we weren't going to see Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts anymore. And then in Spider-Man Homecoming, she pops up at the end, which got some people excited. So anyway, what is Bridget talking about a picture with Pepper? So here's the thing. I am not going to show this picture. I'm not going to show the picture that she's talking about. You've probably already seen it online, and I'm sure you can go find it if you want. But what Bridget is talking about is a picture surfaced online that is purportedly Gwyneth Paltrow standing in front of a green screen in a purple iron suit. By iron, I mean like an Iron Man type of suit, but it's a purple Iron Man kind of suit. And it looks like she's standing there in front of her, and it looks like she's taking a selfie or something like that, right? Let me address this first. I don't think this is real. I don't know if the picture is a Photoshop thing or whatever, but I don't think the story is real. I do not think that they are going to have Pepper Potts dress up, have her own iron suit in Avengers 4 and join the team. I don't think that's happening. And I don't believe in the validity of this picture, to be honest. I don't think Gwyneth Paltrow is taking a selfie of herself because she's been in the MCU longer than almost anybody. I think she knows better not to take a selfie of herself in her iron suit and then email it out to people to go see. I can't see her doing that. So, and I don't believe that this thing could get out and any of that kind of stuff. Anyway, with all that being said, that I don't really believe in the validity of it and all that kind of stuff, let's have some fun and think about it for a second. Because you know me, I don't like to say anything's impossible. While I don't personally believe that that image is floating around is legit and real, and I don't really believe we're going to see Gwyneth Paltrow or Pepper Potts in her own iron armor come Avengers 4, it is possible. It's totally possible. I don't think they brought Pepper back in Spider-Man Homecoming just for shits and giggles. You don't pay a big star like Gwyneth Paltrow to come back and reprise a role if you don't have some kind of plan. So it's possible. I don't think it will, but it's possible. So let's play in that playground for just a second. Let's say it is true. Let's say it's true and Gwyneth Paltrow is going to get her own iron armor. What do we think? Well, for me, number one, it does make sense. I mean, look, Tony Stark is constantly talking about, he wants to build a suit of armor around the world. He wants to protect the world. He wants to protect himself. He wants to protect Pepper, blah, blah, blah. Does it not stand to reason that he would develop something specifically for Pepper? I say, Pepper, you may not be interested in my iron suits, but do me a favor. If we ever get in trouble, tap this button. So this iron armor suit, just to make me feel better so I know you've got some protection. Like, doesn't that, from a narrative point of view, does that not make sense? Does it not make sense that Tony would develop for the one thing he wants to protect more than anything else in the world, Pepper? Would it not make sense? Now that he has this magical fairy dust nanotechnology to make an entire Iron Man suit just pop out of your skin and whatever, does it not make sense that Tony, understanding all that we know about his character, would build something like that for her? To me, that's not a stretch narratively. To me, that only makes sense narratively. That's just, to me, the logical conclusion of that. That is what they should be doing because that's what the character would do. Now, we've also seen in Iron Man 3 that they've got a little bit of a taste for wanting to give Pepper some action. She had the Extremis stuff, and she had a couple of action sequences herself. I personally like those sequences. It would be kind of cool to see this character that we've seen in the MCU longer than anybody else get involved in the action a little bit too, taking her place as the true First Lady of the MCU. It makes sense. So, bottom line for me here is that if I had to put $5 on it, do I think the images floating around are legit? And do I think that's actually what they're doing? If I had to put $5 on it, no. I would guess no. But is it possible? I would say yes, because it makes narrative sense. It fits. Not only does it fit with the story, but it seems to be the logical next step for their story that Tony would give Pepper such an outfit. Doesn't it? Doesn't that make sense? So, yeah, I don't think so, but it's possible. I'm dying to know here. What do you guys think? Do you think Pepper will get her own combat iron suit in Avengers 4? Now that half the world is gone, does she feel the need to step up and stand beside Tony to defend the world? I don't know. What do you guys think? Jump into the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. Final email of the day. And the final email today comes to us from Danny Wright. And Danny Wright writes, with Wonder Woman moving into 2020, no less than 2 movies have jumped on her old date of November 1st, 2019. The new Charlie's Angels and the new Terminator. So simple question. Which one wins? Good question, man. Good question. Okay, so as he's alluding to, we all know, because we talked about it yesterday, that Wonder Woman has been pushed off 7 months into 2020. Fine. It opened up a date now that nobody else was sitting on because nobody wanted to open on the same day, particularly in November, against Wonder Woman. And now we've got not one, but 2 significant movies that have moved on to the previous date. And that is the new Charlie's Angels that we've got coming out here and Terminator, the new Terminator. So the question was a simple one. Which one of these films wins? I'm going to tell you right now this. I'm actually quite looking forward to the new Charlie's Angels movies. I am. I like the cast very much. I think there's some very cool things you can do with the whole premise of Charlie's Angels. I love the fact that Elizabeth Banks and several other characters are going to play multiple Bosleys because now they're a worldwide thing. I really like the approach they're taking, and I'm very intrigued by it, and I'm looking forward to this movie. And, of course, we've got the new Jasmine from the upcoming Aladdin movie is going to be starring in it as well. I'm excited about it. I am. I think there's some really solid potential here for this. But let's be realistic. Whatever has happened in the past number of years with Terminator, though there's been a lot of disappointments and things like that, I believe there's going to be a renewed excitement for Terminator, particularly now that James Cameron, although James Cameron, be very clear, is not directing this Terminator film. He's producing it, which is the first time in a long time. James Cameron's an actual on-board producer. You got the director of Deadpool 1, the first Deadpool, directing it. So I believe a huge Terminator sauce? No, but I do believe there's going to be renewed interest in the Terminator franchise, particularly with this project. Particularly with this one, I think we're going to see renewed interest in the whole Terminator thing. Because of that, I believe Terminator wins that weekend. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't both do well. I believe both of these films can do well. I think they'll both be okay. Hold on a second here. I think they're both going to be all right. Oh my gosh, I'm getting some kind of a echo here. Anyway, sorry about that, guys. But I believe they're going to do okay. I really do. Oh, I know why I was getting the echo. I forgot to fix something. Sorry about that, guys. But I believe you are going to get a situation here where they're both going to do fine and they're both going to do well. But I do believe you're going to see Terminator be the one to take it at that. All right. Sorry about the echo. You know why we're getting the echo, guys? Here, I'm going to bring up the echo again. I'll bring up one of the first things here. This is going to cause echo, so hang in there. I know why this is causing echo now because I've got, see how I got my camera here? I accidentally forgot to say, because just remember, when I'm doing it from home, I'm doing it all by myself. What happens is we're still getting the audio from now this camera that you see and from this shot. So I'm in that picture-in-picture. I'm getting both sets of audio, so it causes that echo. My apologies, guys. That's my fault. But that's what happens when I have to do it by myself from home without a technical crew. So sorry about that. All right. Now, with all that out of the way, there are a bunch of other things going on in the world of movie news, but I'm not going to do it now because of that whole echo thing. I was going to do the movie news feed thing myself, but with the echo thing, I don't want to do it now because we're going to get all that echo stuff going again. So I'm just going to skip over the movie news feed for now. Sorry about that, guys. Too bad. Courtney wrote up a great script for movie news feed, and now I'm not going to be able to do it. So sorry about that. But you know what? We'll get over it because we're going to go right now to live questions. You guys have already been sending in a bunch of live questions, so let's jump over to the live chat board, and we've got a few minutes here to take some live ones, and let's see what you guys are talking about. First up comes to us from Adam Douglas, who writes, you're big on directors not staying on one franchise for too long. Thoughts on David Yates directing at least 6 Harry Potter / Fantastic Beasts films? Yeah, I talked about this a number of times. This has come up a number of times. He's done pretty well. He has. Look, that doesn't, I believe he's an exception to the rule. You know how I always say, you might be able to hit a shot from center court, but it's not a good strategy to shoot a shot from center court in basketball because most of the time you'll miss, but sometimes they go in, I believe like that it's not smart for a director to stay on one franchise for too long. I believe we've seen multiple times when that kind of drains a director or directors of their creativity. But that doesn't mean it can't work. We've also seen examples of where it continues to work, right? right? And I think David Yates is probably an example of one that's continued to work. I still don't think it's a smart thing to do, but there are times that people have done it, and David Yates isn't the only example that you can do it, and it does work out fine. So, yeah, I wouldn't keep going back to that well. I would change it up, but they're doing it that way, and it seems to be working for them. So, who am I to criticize? I'm Upset writes, thoughts on the SpongeBob movies? Never watched them. DC Patience writes, Grace Randolph said Wonder Woman 84 moved so that they could reboot it as Flashpoint event. She brings back Steve Trevor, and it sets off a new DCEU. Thoughts? I can guarantee you right now that has nothing to do with why they moved the film. I'll guarantee you right now that has nothing to do with why they moved the film. Now, I am not, do not take this as criticism of Grace Randolph or anybody else. I do not mean this as criticism or anything like that at all, okay? I'm just saying, remember, this was the same person who told us just a little while ago that Bob Iger was going to fire Kathleen Kennedy, and he had called a big secret meeting of all the heads of all the things. Something I told you was a ridiculous notion right from the beginning. And then what happened? They gave her a new contract that extended another 3 years. So look, but I don't know, like, I've been given wrong information before, so please don't take that as criticism on Grace Randolph. I have been given wrong information before that I then talked about. That's happened to me. That's happened to everybody in this space. That's happened to everybody in this space. Your favorite online movie news personalities, it's happened to all of them. At one point or another, it happens to all of us. I believe that's what happened to Grace. But no, I don't. To me, that's a ridiculous notion. So no, I don't believe that at all. Vrinder Singh writes, I'm a big fan of Orlando Bloom, but haven't seen him in anything recently. Do you think he could be part of any new Lord of the Rings TV series? By the way, you and Courtney are doing a fantastic job. Thank you so much, Vrinder. I am not a big Orlando Bloom fan, to be honest with you. I've watched him in films outside of Pirates of the Caribbean and quite frankly, and Lord of the Rings. And quite frankly, he struggles. I have struggled watching him in films outside of Lord of the Rings and Pirates of the Caribbean. So I'm not, don't get me wrong. I don't dislike Orlando Bloom, but not by a long shot. But I'm not that big of a fan of his. Could they integrate him into Lord of the Rings, the TV series? It's possible. I wouldn't put it by them to do something like that. So I would seriously mark, and when I say possible, I don't just mean 2 or 3%. I mean, there's probably a good 25% chance that they do. I wouldn't be shocked at all if they did. So that is something to keep our eyes open with, because I wouldn't be surprised at all in the next little while if we hear that he's actually appearing in it. Emalia1981 writes, if you could only see the MCU movies or only Zack Snyder movies, all genres, what would you choose? Oh, that's easy. The MCU movies for sure. Yeah, no doubt. Like, I love 300. I really enjoy his animated film, Guardians, the Owls of Goa'uld. I love that movie. I think it was a really good animated film. I like Batman versus Superman. I love Man of Steel. But compared to the MCU, 20 films with an incredible track record of excellence and success, yeah, no brainer. No brainer. I'm going to take the MCU films. Curtis Lopez writes, I hope when the Lion King trailer drops, it's the Circle of Life opening. Drop it on YouTube, guaranteed 100 million views like Disney did with Let It Go. Yeah, but what does 100 million views do for them, really? Look, they don't have to do with Lion King what they had to do with Frozen, right? Lion King is already a very well-known property. It's one of the, if not the most celebrated animated film of all time. To me, Lion King is the greatest animated movie of all time. And back in the day, we did our March Movie Madness, and we did the animation tournament, and it came out on top. It actually won, thanks to voting from you guys. Lion King, and to me, Lion King is the greatest animated movie ever made. I love that movie. So where do they go? What do they do? How do they look? Would it be a bad idea to launch it with Circle of Life? Yeah, but do you want to give away the opening scene of the movie? I don't know. Maybe. But I'm just saying this. It's certainly not something they need to do. They don't need to do that. Not at all. Could they? Yeah. Makes sense. So let's wait and see. Murray Reich writes, Saw the new Halloween and I happened to enjoy it. My criticism, though, is some character arcs were bland, especially the Doctor twist was awful. Ending was very disappointing, anticlimactic, spoiler discussion. Well, yeah, I'm not going to get into spoiler discussion. I will say this, though. I was not a fan of the Doctor character. Not at all. That character to me made no sense, and it was completely predictable. It made absolutely no sense and was absolutely predictable all at the same time. I think that's one of the reasons. You remember when I talked about Halloween, I said, I like Halloween. I like Halloween very much. I think it's a damn good movie. But I'm not losing my mind over it like a lot of the other critics are. Like a lot of the other critics are like, oh my God, this is one of the best movies of the year. I don't agree with that, but it is damn good. And it's totally worth seeing. You really should go out and see it. But I do have issues with it. And the Doctor character very much is one of those. So I'm in agreement with you on that one, Murray. Murray Reich writes, the AMC Empire 25 Theater in New York City now has 2 Prime rooms, one in Dolby and one in Prime. I don't know the difference between the two. I'm not really sure myself. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I wonder if just the new, because remember, when I still worked at AMC, there was one Prime. It was Dolby at AMC Prime. And a Prime theater meant the leather reclining couches, the Dolby Atmos surround sound system, and the Dolby double laser projection system, which is just amazing. Since I've worked there, apparently they've made changes. Now, at like my AMC Burbank 16, there's a Dolby cinema at AMC Prime, and then there's a Prime cinema. Well, I don't know what the difference is. I really don't. I wonder if maybe now the ones that are just called Prime don't actually have the dual laser system. I don't know. Best thing to do is probably just ask an AMC person the next time you're at the theater there and check it out. But I do know this. I've gone to the new Prime theater at the AMC Burbank 16. Wonderful viewing experience. So other than that, I don't know what the differences are. Tyler Yeats writes, do you think we get an Avengers 4 trailer before 2019? Yes. I don't think they have to, but I think they will. I think it would be great if they held off to like late January to start marketing it. I love that it seems like studios are realizing more and more they do not need to put out trailers 8 months in advance. They don't need to put out trailers 6 months in advance. You can start putting out trailers 4 months or 3 months before a movie comes out and you're fine. But, however, I do think we will get one before the end of the year. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get a trailer with Mary Poppins. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But it's even probably more likely that we'll get a trailer in November. I'm thinking we're going to get a trailer for Avengers 4 in November. But, who knows? I hope they wait to 2019. I think that would be great, but I think it might come a little bit early. Sebastian writes, not a quote. I'm still trying to ride with you, man. Well, thanks for being here, Sebastian. Ben Rayner writes, did you know that Robert Englund is going to reprise his Freddy role tonight on The Goldbergs? They're doing an homage episode 2 of Nightmare. Yes, it's been all over the news feeds. I think that's pretty cool. Actually, there was an item in the movie news feed that was not only talking about that Goldbergs thing, but also that Robert Englund's talking about, how he's still up for doing Freddy because it looks like they may want to reboot Nightmare again. Nightmare on Elm Street, that is, again. So, but I don't have the ability to do it here today, so sorry about that. I'm Upset writes, worst Shaq film, Steel, Kazam, or Grown Ups 2? I'm going to go Kazam. Grown Ups 2 is awful. Steel is awful. Kazam is just on a, how did anybody agree for this to be made sort of thing. So I'm going to go Kazam. Let's see. Ben Hayusa writes, no question. I just want to thank Courtney for pronouncing my last name correctly the first try. Loving the show, guys. It's even better. Keep it up. Well, thank you so much, Ben. And sorry that we're in my very limited home studio right now, but we'll be back in the new studio together. Don't worry about it. Kieran Douglas writes, are you excited for Scorsese's The Irishman? I feel like I get asked this question like every 2 weeks. No, I'm not excited. I'm damn curious. But my excitement got killed with the knowledge that, hey, they tried to get this movie to get picked up by a major studio, and they all passed. And then it ended up in Netflix. So that to me is a red flag. However, I talked about this a few weeks ago. There's a buddy of mine who brought up something that does get me a little bit more excited for. He said, yeah, maybe the reason the studios passed on it wasn't because it didn't look excellent, but because, hey, Scorsese's last film, the one he did with Liam Neeson, about the missionary, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was a great film, but it flopped and lost the studio a lot of money. So what my buddy proposed to me, he says, what if The Irishman is another one of those situations where it's a great movie, but the studios look at it and just say, but this movie isn't going to make any money. No one's going to go see this movie, even if it's excellent. If that's the case, that would get me excited because it means we're in for a really good movie. So I don't know, but I at this point, I still can't say I'm excited about it because of all those other red flags. But, hey, we'll see. We're getting closer and we'll find out soon enough. Stephen Beam writes, a lot of technical glitches, any frustrations yet? Not really. Moving into the new studio, I was expecting lots of glitches. Because, it has happened every time we've moved into a new studio. It happened when we moved into the broom closet at AMC, and then it happened at first when we moved into the stream with AMC, and then it happened when we moved into our new studio with AMC in Burbank, and then it happened when we transitioned that AMC studio into being a complex studio, and then it happened again when I opened up my studio at home. To this, you just saw it today. I continue to have technical glitches here at home, which is no excuse for that other than the fact that I'm doing it by myself. And I fully expected, especially with all the upgrades to the show, that it was going to take probably 2, 3, 4 weeks to really iron out all the bugs. Because it's a new flow of show and all that kind of stuff. It's still the same show, right? It's still off the top. It's still main questions from email. It's still the live questions. We've reintroduced the movie news feed. The show in the new studio is the exact same show. It's the exact same show that I was doing here. It just looks a hell of a lot better with much better cameras, much better sound. When we work out the glitches, that is. Big frustrations, though? No. Honestly, nothing. All the problems we faced have been manageable problems and fixable problems, and those are the types of problems you like to come across. It's the problems that you face when you go, I can't even figure out why this is a problem. Those are the dangerous ones. Ones like, oh, our volume was too low. Okay, we know how to fix that. Oh, the picture was too bright. Okay, we know how to fix that. You know what I mean? These are the problems we want to encounter over the first little while because those are ones we can identify and then fix. And we're going to get them all fixed and we'll be up and running and really smooth real quick here in the near future. But I can't even begin to tell you guys, I love the new studio. I love it. It is the best thing my favorite set I've ever been on. It is easily my favorite set I've ever been on. I am in love with the new studio so much. And we got a great crew and we're going to get all the wrinkles ironed out. And I'm having a lot of fun. And it's great doing a show when I am not trying to control the audio. I'm controlling the graphics. I'm controlling the picture-in-picture. I'm controlling the stream of the feed. I'm controlling the live stream to YouTube. And I'm trying to talk all at the same time. I'm not gonna lie, very few people can do what I'm doing. A lot of people can do live shows, but they don't bring in as much stuff as I do. At least most people don't. And to actually be able to go into studio and actually just sit down at the desk and just do the show and focus on doing the show and focus on what I'm talking about, not have to focus about graphics and audio and switching and all that kind of stuff. Oh, guys, you have no idea what a godsend this has been. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it, but and we'll get it all there. Of course, it's frustrating when power goes out in a building. Then again, I've had power go out at my place. Remember a number of months ago, I had to skip a couple of days because we had power issues. But anyway, that happens. That's kind of act of God kind of stuff. Nothing we can do about that. Matthew Melagno writes, I hope Avengers 4 we get to see Clark Grage. I don't know who Clark Grage is, to be honest with you. Sorry about that, man. Jesse Martin writes, Echo, well, yeah, I figured that part out. Now I know why that was a problem. Captain Mexico 21 writes, I can't help but to think that the reason Warner Brothers decided not to change the Aquaman release date is the same as the last year's Justice League, where they just wanted to hit their quota and get their bonuses. See, I understand why you would think that, Captain Mexico. I totally do. I can totally understand why you would think that. Here's why I don't. It's because with the Justice League, for those of you who don't know what Captain Mexico is talking about, a story came out in Variety that the reason that the filmmakers requested from Warner Brothers to push off the release date of Justice League so they could fix a few more things. And that Kevin Sujihara, the CEO of Warner Brothers, said no. And the reason he said no was that because if Justice League got pushed off into 2018, it would have affected his 2017 bonus. And that the decision was, again, he's never admitted this. This is only coming from like one of the news outlets. But the story was that the reason they refused to let Justice League get pushed off was so they could get their bonuses, which pissed me off, if true. And it should piss all movie fans off. The reason I don't believe that's the same situation here is because this movie's been basically done for a while already. They don't need any more time. James Wan and the guys, they don't need any more time. They've got the same. As a matter of fact, they could have moved Justice League's release date up. And I thought they were going to. Honestly, I thought there was a really good shot that at Comic-Con this past year, I thought there was a very good chance that they were going to announce, hey guys, Aquaman's coming out at the end of October, and everybody would lose their mind, right? So this is a very, very different situation than the Justice League one. On top of that, the other reason is that, the more money this movie makes, the more money these top executives get in their bonus. I've believed they needed to move Aquaman off this date so it could make more money. I thought if they moved it to February or March, that this Aquaman movie will make more money than it's going to make in December. I still believe that. I still think Aquaman can make decent money, but it would have made more money if it released in February or March. That would have given bigger bonuses to Kevin Sujihara and the like. So, yeah, I think there's a couple of reasons to not think this is the same situation as Justice League. Number one, this is a film that doesn't need more time to get finished. They actually could have moved the release date up. Number two, the issue is if they did move it, the bonuses get actually bigger for Kevin Sujihara and company. So, yeah, so I honestly don't think that's why they didn't move it. I really don't. I think there's just too many good rational explanations there as to why this is a different situation altogether. But I can totally understand, again, Captain Mexico, why you would think that off the top. I really do. TJ Thomas writes, you forgot Vanessa and Wade Wilson as a great couple in comic book movies. First of all, they are great. Deadpool is such a different kind of movie. I almost don't even put them in the same category, and maybe that's not right. Maybe that's not fair that I think that way. But yeah, man, it's like, I almost don't think of them in the same terms before, but maybe I should. It's a very good point, DJ. Sirivan Bennett writes, I know you dislike romantic interest in comic book movies, but what about Steve Rogers and Peggy? So heartbreaking and tragic. Plus, Haley Atwell is hotter than Magma. Haley Atwell, first of all, she's incredibly talented. She's a great actress. And she is hot as the sun. Absolutely she is. I liked it. One of the things that I liked about it a lot, though, was that it was very briefly touched upon, even in the first Avenger. It really wasn't a big main thing. It was just kind of hinted at and alluded to as the movie went on, that then culminated in that last great scene as the plane's going down and he's talking to Peggy. It was great, but it was not a focal point of the movie. That romantic relationship was not a focal point of the movie, like the Thor and Jane relationship, or a lot of the other comic book movies with their romantic relationships, right? So that's part of the reason. That's why I don't count that one, Sear. But again, you're thinking the right way. You totally are. And that is a really great one. And I hope that when Disney gets their streaming service back up and running, or does finally gets their streaming service up and running, I hope that Peggy Carter returns. I'm hoping Peggy Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. returns. I really do. Matt Brown writes, last couple of questions today. Do you think that You Should Have Gone for the Head will become the equivalent of our generation's that Luke, I Am Your Father was for your generation? Keep up the awesome. Nah. Honestly, it was a great line in the movie, But no, it's not. It's a great line. People will remember the line, but no, it is not the next Luke, I am your father. It is not the next if you build it, they will come. It's not. Nah. No, I really don't. I don't think that it's the new one for that yet. Ben Rayner writes, weekly hero today. No. What we are aiming, I mentioned this like last week as well. We are aiming for next Wednesday is when we're aiming for it. So weekly hero, as of right now, we are putting the set together because the weekly hero is going to be done from the new studio. We're putting the set together, and we are thinking we're going to have it all ready in time for next Wednesday. And by the way, it's not going to be on my YouTube channel anymore. The Weekly Hero will no longer be on my YouTube channel. It's going to be on the Stream.tv's YouTube channel, but don't worry about it right now. I'll give you guys all the links in the days leading up to the Weekly Hero again. I will give you all the links, and you'll have everything that you need for it. All right, guys. That will do it for me for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Again, my apologies for the echo stuff when we had the picture-in-picture. That's a technical problem on my end because I'm doing it all by myself. And my apologies that we didn't do it from the studio today. I had a power outage, but I've already gotten a text message as we were doing the show that all the problems are now fixed from the power outage. So we'll be back up and running in the studio again tomorrow. So thank you guys for your patience and being here with me today. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all of you being fellow film fans with me. Thank you for being supportive, and thank you for being a film fan in general. That'll do it for me for now, guys. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.